Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we'll have the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we have got widespread wind warning issued for many western and northern regions, as we are going to see some fairly stormy, blustery conditions over the course of this weekend, as we do have a really severe area of low pressure just to the north of Scotland. The strongest winds are likely to stay out to sea. We're still likely to see 60 or 70 miles per hour for coastal areas, perhaps over higher ground inland as well. So pretty blustery, but nowhere near as bad as it could have been. We'll then have a look at the latest UK view, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we are going to see some fairly wintry conditions throughout this evening into Sunday morning, as along with those very strong blustery winds, it is coming in from the northwest, which is a pretty cold direction. We are seeing a polar maritime air mass moving through, and for a period of time, about 24 hours or so, quite a few showers are going to have a wintry flavour to them. We can already see a few of those showers turning to snow across the Highlands of Scotland at the moment, and that freezing level will drop close to sea level throughout this evening. We'll then have a look at the lead up to Christmas. Of course, it is looking likely to turn milder for Christmas, but at the moment pretty dry with a bit of sunshine around. So to be honest, not terrible, but not particularly seasonal feel at all. And then we'll finish the video by having a look at the longer range forecast that is looking likely towards the end of the year and start of 2025. We do see quite a big shake-up in the northern hemisphere, with the tropospheric polar vortex disappearing from Greenland, moving towards Russia and Scandinavia, which does open the door to much colder patterns. And I have said that over the last few videos. I'm expecting to see some very cold runs appearing, and today we're seeing exactly that from the latest GFS. It properly gets that Greenland high going, and we do actually see a very cold northerly wind for the start of January. So there's going to be one to keep a very close eye on, and we'll focus on that in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can already see that northwesterly wind is coming in at the moment, with the quite severe area of low pressure just to the north of Scotland. You can see that we are starting to see some really hefty showers, some darker greens, some orange and reds in here, showing some really high precipitation rates, and already some of this is turning to snow. Over the coming hours, as the sun sets, that freezing level will drop down towards around 50 to 100 metres. So that means quite a few areas will see snow, or at least some wintriness, and even to lower-lying areas, sea level, when we do see some of the hefty showers with evaporative cooling. We're not only expecting this across Scotland, but across much of Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, towards Northern England and Wales, and a few of those showers will drift further inland across England as well. Those are expected around the early hours of Sunday, so if you're up late tonight, then there is quite a high chance, if you look out the window, one of these showers passing through, you do see a bit of snow, hail or gravel, or at least something wintry through this evening. If we could put on those temperatures, I'm recording this around the middle of the afternoon, 2 p.m, so we are near enough the mildest point of the day, and you can see it is milder further south and eastwards, much colder further northwards and westwards, and these colder air masses will get stronger and more widespread over the next few hours. As I said, through the evening, that's where the freezing level will likely drop down to around 50 to 100 metres for most areas, and again could drop to sea level where we do see some of those hefty showers. Now if you look at the weather warnings, we've got all of these yellow warnings still issued, and I'm not going to go through these in too much detail, just because we have looked at them in a lot of detail yesterday, and they have not been updated, or not updated too much. You can see here, it was updated on Friday, so again we saw that in yesterday's video. Again, we're looking at the strongest winds here for the far north of Scotland for all of the rest of today. This more widespread warning issued again for many northern and western areas for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, maybe up to 70, and then into Sunday a larger, more blanket widespread warning until 9 p.m. on Sunday evening. Again looking at 50 to 60 widely, up towards 70 in a few spots, and again if we scroll to the bottom, you can see that again it hasn't been updated since Thursday actually, so yeah, not expecting any major changes to this warning, but for the time being, do keep an eye out. It is going to be pretty blustery, but we're not expecting anything too severe. Of course, with more people travelling, more people out shopping, of course, leading up to Christmas, there is the risk of higher disruption just due to the sheer volume of people out and about. So do be wary and do just keep an eye out if those winds do start to pick up. Now, do move over to the UKV now and look at the latest precipitation, temperature and wind gusts over the coming days. You can see we've got heavy rain moving through earlier this morning, but it's now cleared and we're into this northwesterly flow. Much drier air initially, but those showers will really start to pile up through this evening. Already, showers start to really pick up around 7-8 p.m, turning to snow, and really around midnight or so, a lot more pink and purples developing, and those showers get larger and more heftier around the early hours of Sunday. Quite a lot of heavy snow here for Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Northern England, Wales and Scotland, even into the Midlands, and maybe a couple of these showers drifting into southern England. You can see they're not all snow, really snow in the heaviest pulses to lower lying areas, and more likely to be more complete snow there over higher ground. We see lots of pink and purples, the freezing level dropping close to sea level through the early hours of Sunday, and eventually the freezing level starts to rise. And of course, we do see those showers getting cut off around sort of 10-11 a.m. on Sunday, and eventually we do start to see a more westerly wind moving back in for Monday, and this is that milder air pushing in that is likely to last pretty much all of Christmas through towards Boxing Day as well. And you see for Christmas Day itself, we are under higher pressure. We saw yesterday's video, this weather front here was a bit further southward, so it's moved a bit further northwards in the latest run, which is a good thing, means the rain, drizzle and thicker cloud could just stay to the north of most, but you can see it is still pretty cloudy, but with a few glimpses of sunshine here or there. Upper air temperatures, see at the moment, are turning much colder through Saturday. They're chilly at the moment, but it's turning much, much colder through sunset, -6 to -8 degrees at 8:50 HPA, moving through the early hours of Sunday. And this temperature contrast to the surface and that real cold air aloft moving through, that is going to not only pep up the showers, but also, as I said, turn them more wintry. Before eventually that air mass starts to degrade away through Sunday, warm up a little bit, and eventually get swept away into the early hours of Monday. So Sunday does look like, regardless of obviously any wintriness, does look like a pretty cold day, I must say. And then into Tuesday and Wednesday for Christmas Day itself. Look at that, exceptionally mild at the upper air level, but we're not going to see these sort of temperatures at the surface because there is a slight inversion taking place. Not a massive inversion, it's not going to be sort of low single digits towards the surface, but more likely high single digits up towards maybe 10, 11 or 12 degrees. So a slight inversion, but we're not expecting anything too major at this stage. But a very, very mild upper air temperatures there for Christmas Day itself. A good 10 to maybe 15 degrees above average for what we should expect this time of year. But we're not going to quite see those sort of anomalies at the surface, as I said, because of that inversion. If you look at the max winds, you can see very strong winds just to the north of Scotland. You see 80, 90 miles per hour, amber warning worthy, but they do clear most of Scotland. At the moment, though, winds are picking up 60 to 70 for quite a few, and they'll continue to be fairly strong over the coming hours, but we're not expecting to see any massive peak at any point. 50 to 60 widely, up towards 70, before they do decide to move away as we head towards Christmas. And you see for Christmas Day itself, very light winds for most, and it should be a fairly mundane and quiet Christmas Day. If we look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon up towards kind of 10 to 12 in the far southeast, but much colder in the north and the west, and those temperatures will fall away rapidly overnight tonight, and through the early hours of Sunday, most are around freezing, maybe 2 to 5 degrees in the far southeast. And for Sunday itself, those temperatures don't rise much, 4 or 5 degrees at best for most. A really cold Sunday, but then as we head into Monday morning, maybe a slight frost, but into Monday afternoon, we start to see temperatures rising quite rapidly in the west, still very cold in the east, maybe kind of 4 or 5 degrees at best, before eventually all will turn milder into Tuesday for Christmas Eve, 10 to 13 degrees, and for Christmas Day itself, again, kind of 9 to 12, slight inversion. And then into Thursday, likely to see similar temperatures. Very little diurnal range though, with that cloud around it will hold the temperatures up from falling away a bit more through the evening. Now, if we do go over to the longer range now, we have to see the latest GFS, which, as I said at the start of the video, is very cold today, and it's all due to that shift in the northern hemisphere into the new year. Now, at the moment, we've got that strong northwesterly wind moving through overnight tonight into Sunday. Again, nothing too severe, but for a short period of time could cause some quite wintry and maybe disruptive weather in a few spots. into Monday, though, that westerly flow returns and high pressure builds in, and it goes fairly mundane through Christmas Day, all the way kind of to the 27th and 28th, but it's around into the final few days of December. This is where we start to see that real shift in the northern hemisphere. Look at this, a massive blocking area of high pressure towards northeast Canada, up towards Greenland. Huge contrast. We'd expect to be seeing big low pressure here, tropospheric polar vortex, but instead the tropospheric polar vortex is moved towards Russia, up towards Scandinavia, and this is where we could start to see something colder develop. Now initially, we have got a bit of a European high which stops this low pressure system moving into Europe, clearing and opening the door to northerly winds. Now that's what initially we're seeing, and a lot of runs are getting kind of stuck there at this point with that European high trying to hold on. But if that European high moves away, then the low pressure would move in its natural track, which is southwards and eastwards, and that would open the door, as I said, to much colder conditions because of that block towards northeast Canada and Greenland, completely cutting off the jet stream where it normally takes its traditional track out of northeast Canada and the United States. So what happens here is eventually that European high loses its strength. It does take a bit of time here. Again, it tries to hold on. Cold air is so close here at 300 hours. Look at it, it's just to our north. But eventually, into the final few frames of this run, we eventually see that European high move to the south, and it unleashes northerly winds here into the first week of January, going exceptionally cold and likely exceptionally wintry as well. Tropospheric polar vortex coming in from the north. One thing we need to keep an eye on is that block towards northeast Canada. It's still there, but it's degrading in strength significantly than what it was only a couple of days prior, and that means that the jet stream could try and push through, which would reduce the length of any colder spell, but also could increase the wintriness, as all of this cold air towards Scandinavia and the UK won't want to shift all too quickly, and it could allow this milder air to try not to cut it, and that's where we could see significant snowfalls if that did occur. Now, I know I'm extrapolating there quite significantly, but I do just want to try to highlight what this sort of run could evolve into. Probably not a lengthy cold spell, just because that block does start to degrade away, but it could be very potent, very severe for a time, and then eventually could be quite snowy towards the end. If that block reinvigorates, then yes, it could hold on and be a bit stronger, but I'm not seeing signs of that on this latest run. It could happen, but here it looks like it does pull in that very cold northerly wind and then tries to undercut it, or is going to try and undercut it in the coming days. But nonetheless, a very severe run here. -10 isotherm moving in for most. And yeah, look at that, -15, -20 moving in for Iceland. An exceptionally cold run. And if we do go towards the surface, we're going to see those temperatures widely below freezing there into early January. Dew points as well, look at that, down to -10, just showing how exceptionally cold that air mass will be. No issues here with seeing snow with any precipitation falling out of the sky. And yeah, will be very interesting to see how this does develop. But we've seen this very interesting northern hemispheric pattern for the last few days, and finally we're starting to now get to the time frame where some of these runs are starting to show something very cold into that longer term picture. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I was expecting to see these sort of runs, and we are now seeing them, which is always good to know that predictions are at least coming right to a certain extent. Now, if you compare to the GM, now GM only goes out to day 10, so only gets to the last couple of days of December, so we won't be able to see potentially that early January events unfold, but we'll at least be able to see what happens in the northern hemisphere towards the end of the year. Now, high pressure does build in, of course, for Christmas Day and the subsequent days as expected, and very similar to the other runs, the tropospheric polar vortex migrates eastwards and clears away. We do see a block towards northeast Canada, but it's nowhere near as strong as the GFS. It's still cutting off the jet stream, but not quite as much. Again, got this European high, which is stopping these lower pressure systems from clearing through. But again, we are surrounded by very cold air to our north, and if this European high again slips to our south, we'd expect to see this low sat towards Iceland, clear eastwards and southwards, and it would open the door to a northerly wind for a time. Whether it would be blocked and probably cold, we can't say for certain, but definitely, again, a very similar pattern evolving towards the end of December. Slightly different in terms of the positioning and intensities of air masses and the block and lower pressure, but the overall sort of northern hemispheric pattern is very similar, which, again, is pretty good, seeing a bit of consistency from the runs here. But again, it will cause some headaches as we'll try to sort of see how this does evolve. Now, if you do have a look at the latest ECMWF, again, you can see that west to northwesterly flow moving through, higher pressure shifting in. And as we head out towards day 10, again, we've got this European high, a bit of a block up towards northeast Canada, and with that low pressure trying to clear eastward. So it is similar with its northern hemispheric atmosphere, but nowhere near as on board with something cold, but nowhere near as cold as the GFS was. So, again, have to keep a close eye on it, but again, very interesting developments here in the Northern Hemisphere. And to finish the video, if we look at the latest ensembles, if I do quickly refresh it just so we get the latest data, very cold the next kind of 24 to 48 hours, much milder for Christmas, and then into the subsequent days, it slowly drops off, and then for the end of the year, we do look likely to go colder once again. Quite a lot of spread though, some very cold runs appearing, some milder runs appearing, quite a few colder runs. Even that operational run was pretty mild. Right towards the end, though, that's where the operational run goes very cold, one of the coldest runs here, whereas others go much colder much earlier. So there is a real possibility that it is actually much colder to end December and start January, not kind of later into January like the operational run was showing. But again, the operational run was just good to kind of exemplify what we are seeing within the ensemble and model output. But definitely a colder trend appearing to end December and start January, but it will be one where there's still a lot of deliberating between the runs. There is still plenty of milder options, but at the moment, definitely trending a bit colder towards something perhaps a little bit chillier and more unsettled. Potentially very cold like the operational run, but again, I'm not going to say that it's got any real hope at this stage, just because we are still so far away. And if we do just finally compare to the ECMWF ensembles, broadly very similar, much colder over the next couple of days, much milder for the time through Christmas, and then towards the end of the year, back towards average, or slipping below average. But again, we've got lots of sort of uncertainty here, some milder runs, some colder runs, so again, ECMWF not really showing much consistency there in the longer range, still quite muddled. But again, we'll have to wait and see. The trends, as I said, across the Northern Hemisphere, for something perhaps a bit colder, but again, we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe through this weekend, of course. I know a lot of people are either travelling, doing some shopping, just getting out and about for the weekend before Christmas. But there is going to be some disruption around. We are seeing those very strong winds, and potentially through this evening into Sunday morning, a bit of wintriness. There could be some ice around, maybe even a bit of snow. So yeah, do stay safe, as hopefully, as we head through Christmas Eve, it will be turning much more mundane, drier, and a little bit milder as we do head into the actual Christmas period itself. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.